For as long as I can remember, I've been a ghost in my own life. I was the loner, the guy with no friends, the one the neighbors whispered about as a troubled kid. I carried a chip on my shoulder that was half self-loathing and half defiance. It made me a disaster at dating. I usually just ended up being the third wheel to other people's romances. Until recently. Until I was told I was finally getting a wife of my own. A contract marriage? Like a trophy husband. I looked up, staring at my father in total disbelief. Fine, whatever. I'll be a trophy husband, I muttered under my breath. The old man nodded, then pointed a judgmental finger at the shelves of limited edition statues and collectibles lining my room. Clean this crap up, he barked. You're a grown man. Throw it all out. My heart skipped a beat. I scrambled to pack my most prized, rare figures into padded boxes. These weren't just toys. They were the result of years of hunting and more money than I cared to admit. My dad watched my reaction, his brow furrowed, as if he wanted to say something more, but he just huffed and slammed the door. I guess he figured I wasn't worth the breath. After all, I was being sold off anyway. My name is Ben Harris. I'm the middle child, the family's resident slacker. I wasn't as smart as my older brother or as sharp as my younger one. I was the disappointment. So, I shouldn't have been surprised when the old man suddenly announced he'd arrange a marriage for me. A merger, really. Word was, she had just taken over the family conglomerate. Sienna Vance, a powerhouse CEO who held the reins of an empire. Rumor also had it she had a one who got away, a secret love she'd never forgotten. The thought actually gave me a weird little thrill. Based on all the trashy novels I'd read on Reddit, the contract husband usually has a rough time. But I wasn't some secret billionaire, a legendary doctor, or a retired special ops soldier. I was just a guy living off whatever crumbs my parents dropped into my bank account. If nothing else, this was a chance to finally live a little. Stop daydreaming and get your ass down here. My father's roar echoed through the ceiling, nearly making me jump out of my skin. I sighed, stood up, and caught my reflection in the mirror. My hair was a mess from sleeping on it. My features? Well, I couldn't complain there. I had the kind of face that belonged on a billboard, even if my life belonged in a gutter. Good morning, handsome, I whispered to the glass. I showered and threw on the clothes they'd picked out for me. Seriously? Did they want me to look like a K-pop idol or a college freshman? I went rogue instead. I dug out my best tailored black suit and a pair of clear frame glasses. The sophisticated villain look. When I got downstairs, the house was eerily quiet. The dining table was spotless, every dish already put away. I rubbed my growling stomach. You're kidding me. It's my wedding day, essentially, and I don't even get breakfast. Even death row inmates get a last meal. I grumbled. My father was sitting on the sofa, hidden behind the Wall Street Journal. He snapped the paper down, revealing a face like thunder. Eat, eat, eat. That's all you do. You're meeting the Vance girl for lunch. If you fill up here, you'll look like a pig at the restaurant. Oh, right. I scratched my head, giving him a sheepish grin. So, can I get some cash? I'm going to be a kept man, sure, but I can't let her pay on the first date. That's just embarrassing. My father stared at me for a long time. His eyes said he was looking at a pile of wet trash that refused to be hauled away. Finally, he reached into his bag, pulled out 2 thick envelopes of cash, and tossed them on a coffee table. I snatched them up with the grace of a pro athlete and headed out the door, a smirk tugging at my lips. Pay for lunch? No. I was the one being bought. This money was going straight into my new hobby fund. The restaurant was perched on the top floor of a Manhattan skyscraper. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of half the city. When I arrived, the hostess led me directly to the only table that had been set. Ms. Vance requested that you be seated immediately, she whispered. She'd rented out the whole place. I tried to look composed, sliding a $100 bill to the waiter to keep the drinks coming. The restaurant was so quiet I could hear my own breathing. My nerves started to fray, and I found myself picking at the edge of the white tablecloth. About 10 minutes later, the elevator chimed. I looked up and my breath hitched. Sienna Vance. She looked nothing like the airbrushed, cold-eyed photos in Forbes. She was taller in person, wearing a sharp, cream-colored power suit. Her dark hair was pulled back into a flawless bun. Her expression was unreadable, but when her eyes swept over me, I instinctively straightened my back. The aura she projected was suffocating. And she was beautiful, breathtakingly so. She sat down across from me with surgical precision. A waiter appeared, poured water, and vanished. The silence stretched, filled only by the faint, ghostly notes of a piano over the speakers. Ms. Vance, I started. Mr. Harris, she said at the same time. Her voice was cool, level, and devoid of emotion. She raised a hand. An assistant appeared out of nowhere and handed her a leather-bound folder. This is the agreement, she said, sliding it toward me. Look it over. Once we're married, the Harris Group will receive a 30% stake in the East Side waterfront project and 5 years of exclusive distribution through Vance Logistics. In exchange, you, Ben Harris, move into my estate as my husband. My God, the East Side project. My family's business had been hemorrhaging money for years. That project was the only thing my father cared about. It was the make or break for our name. I flipped through the document, the pages crinkling in the quiet air. Most of it was benefits for my family. Near the back, I found my rules. During the duration of the marriage, Mr. Harris must maintain the public image of Sienna Vance and the Vance Group. No infidelity, no public intoxication, no gambling, and no actions detrimental to the reputation of Ms. Vance. Basically, I was a glorified houseplant. What's in it for me? I blurted out. I immediately wanted to kick myself. I was lucky I wasn't being asked to pay for the privilege. Sienna looked up, one perfectly arched eyebrow twitching upward. For you, she repeated. Does a $15,000 monthly stipend count? If your performance is satisfactory, we can discuss bonuses. 15 grand a month? That was more than my father's allowance by a long shot. I gripped my bill of sale and thought over. My dad had made it clear, if I blew this, I was cut off. Homeless. I wouldn't even be a slacker. I'd be a statistic. It took me exactly 2 seconds to decide. I grabbed the pen and scrawled my name before she could change her mind. Hey, if I had to sell my soul, at least I was getting a good price for it. She took the folder, checked the signature, and handed it to her assistant. Since that's settled, she said, checking her Patek Philippe. It's 12:40. Lunch is over. We have an appointment at the clerk's office at 2:30 to file the license. Wait, today? We're getting hitched today. I was floored. Is there a problem? She locked eyes with me. No, just confirming. I said, try to sound cool while my internal monologue was screaming. Lunch and a wedding in the same afternoon? At 2:30 p.m., we were at the city clerk's office. The process was faster than a trip to the DMV. Photos, signatures, stamps. Before I knew it, I was holding a marriage certificate. I looked at the photo of us. She had a faint, ghostly smile. I looked like I was being held at gunpoint. I was a married man. I was a trophy husband. I was officially on the clock. Outside, the New York sun was blinding. My phone buzzed, a notification of a wire transfer. My signing bonus from Sienna. Her Bentley was idling at the curb. She opened the door and glanced back at me. Her gaze was as calm as a still pond. Get in. We're going home. Home. I blinked. Our home, Sienna clarified. Your father is having your things packed and delivered. Wait, I said instinctively. I'd rather pack my own stuff. Just give me the address, and I'll head over later. Is that okay? Sienna paused for a second, then turned to her assistant. Cam, give him the address to the Greenwich estate, and the key card. The assistant, Camden, nodded respectfully and handed me the items. Sienna didn't say another word. The Bentley pulled away, merging into the Manhattan traffic and vanishing in seconds. Just like that, I was dismissed. I looked at the key card. That assistant, Camden, didn't seem like just an employee. He was handsome in a polished sort of way, and the way he looked at Sienna wasn't exactly professional. I rubbed my chin. I had a feeling my new trophy husband life was going to be a lot more complicated than I thought. When I got back to my parents' house, they were already popping champagne. No one asked how I felt. I just went upstairs and started packing. I put my phone on speaker and called my best friend. Wait, you got married today? Will's voice was incredulous. That fast? Yeah, it's like something out of a bad movie, I said, tossing a limited edition Batman into a box. I'm officially a kept man. Doesn't Sienna Vance have a legendary ex or something? Some guy who broke her heart. Yeah, I heard the rumors. Man, you're in for it. She's gonna treat you like a placeholder until that guy comes back. Treat me like a placeholder? Only if I let her. I joked, though a part of me wondered if he was right. We talked for an hour while I packed 8 boxes of collectibles and clothes. My room, once a cluttered sanctuary, suddenly looked hollow and cold. As I carried the first box downstairs, I saw them. The whole family was gathered in the living room, laughing and chatting. I peeked over the railing and froze. Sienna was there. She was sitting on the sofa, nodding politely as my parents fawned over her. When she saw me coming down, she stood up. Amidst a flurry of forced well wishes and don't forget to call from people who hadn't spoken to me in months, I was loaded into an SUV with my 8 boxes of luggage. The drive to the estate was awkward. Sienna was silent, focused on her iPad. Her assistant, Camden, sat in the front, occasionally reporting on market shifts or board meetings, which kept the car from feeling completely like a tomb. Suddenly, the car pulled over. I realized we were in a familiar part of town, a slightly gritty, old-school neighborhood. We were parked in front of the Skewer Shack, It was a hole-in-the-wall spot that had been there for 40 years. The owner was a little old lady who everyone called Nana. I've been craving this place for weeks, but will have been too busy with work to go with me. No way, I joked. I was actually just thinking about coming here. I saw you post about it on Instagram a few weeks ago, Sienna said, her heels clicking on the pavement as she brushed past me and walked inside. Wait, Instagram? We weren't even following each other. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of grilled meat and charcoal. Sienna deftly ordered a few things and went to claim a table, leaving the rest of the ordering to me. I grabbed a mountain of the meat skewers I loved and added some grilled vegetables for her. The lady asked if I wanted them spicy. I hesitated. In every novel I'd read, high-powered CEOs always had stress-induced stomach issues. Maybe Sienna did too. Not too spicy, I said, and a side of the ginger congee. A moment later, Camden walked in. He sat down naturally next to Sienna and used a wet wipe to meticulously clean the table in front of her. The level of devotion made my eye twitch. Sienna, you have that international Zoom call at 9, Camden said softly. Do you need me to pull the supplementary files? No, that's fine. Go home after this. We're done for the day. Sienna bit into a grilled rice cake, looking surprisingly relaxed. A bit of sauce got on the corner of her mouth, and Camden immediately reached out with a napkin to dab it away. I chewed on my steak skewer, suddenly finding it hard to swallow. Mr. Harris, Camden said, turning to me with a polite, empty smile. Sienna usually has a glass of warm milk before bed to help her sleep. Exactly 140 degrees. You'll need to handle that from now on. I stared at him. This guy knew her bedtime routine? Had they lived together? Sienna glanced at me, and for a split second, I thought I saw a flicker of amusement in her eyes. Got it, I muttered. Sienna's estate was massive, easily 3 times the size of my parents' house. My room was on the 2nd floor, separated from hers by a small private lounge. It was a perfect arrangement, not too close, not too far. Camden dropped us off and left, giving me a weird, lingering look before he walked out. For the first week, I barely saw her. She left before I woke up and came home after I'd crashed. One night, she messaged me, saying she wouldn't be back at all. Hey Will, my wife is out for the night. I texted my buddy. And? Will replied instantly. Tell your girlfriend to bring some drinks over. I'm bored out of my mind. I don't know, man. It's late. It's fine, the house is empty. You guys can crash in the guest wing. All right, I'll tell her. I started setting out some snacks and expensive bourbon I'd found in the pantry. Less than an hour later, the doorbell rang. I opened it, expecting to see Will and his girlfriend, Lydia. Instead, it was just Lydia. She was tall, wearing a cream trench coat over a dark dress, her legs wrapped in sheer black tights. I froze. Lydia gave me a soft, knowing smile and walked right past me. She tossed her coat on the sofa, revealing a figure that was, well, distracting. What are you standing there for? Let's drink, she said, looking back at me. She walked over to the kitchen island where the bourbon was waiting. She poured a glass and took a sip, her neck arching elegantly. Where's Will? I asked, closing the door. Will? He said he was exhausted and went to bed right after I told him I was coming over. She swirled her glass, leaning against the counter. Wait, something felt very wrong. You look disappointed. Didn't you tell Will to send me over? No. I mean, I invited both of you. I was starting to sweat. This was not the plan. Is that so? Lydia put her glass down and kicked off her heels, walking toward me. I didn't think you'd be this bold, inviting me over while your high and mighty CEO wife is away. Is she not satisfying you? Did you miss me? She reached out, her finger tracing the top button of my shirt. I backed away. Lydia, you've got the wrong idea. This is a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? She smirked, her eyes scanning me. Will told me you specifically said the house was empty and you wanted someone to sleep over. My heart hammered against my ribs. I was going to kill Will. Will is an idiot. I'm in his friends. I glanced toward the front door, terrified Sienna would walk in. She said she wouldn't be home, but fate was usually a jerk to me. Really? Lydia stepped closer, almost touching me. Do you have any idea how excited I was when you reached out tonight? I've been waiting for you to get bored of her. She smelled like expensive perfume and whiskey. Her fingers started working on my button. Lydia, stop. You're my best friend's girl. Friends. She laughed. That's not what you said last time we saw each other. She turned back to the counter to refill her glass. Ben, I don't get you. She was cut off by the distinct click of the front door. The foyer light snapped on. Sienna stood there. She was wearing a blue and white striped shirt dress, her coat draped over her arm. Her hair was loose, falling over her shoulders. She didn't say anything. She just stood there, looking at us. The air in the room turned to ice. Wife, I thought you weren't coming back tonight. I stammered. I finished early, Sienna said. Her voice was flat. She walked toward us, her steps light but heavy with authority. Her eyes swept over the two glasses, the bourbon, and finally Lydia. A guest. Yeah. Sienna, this is Lydia. She's Will's girlfriend. Will's my best friend. She was just in the neighborhood and stopped by. Lydia had already pulled herself together, putting on a mask of polite warmth. Ms. Vance, it's a pleasure. Ben talks about you all the time. Sorry for the late intrusion. Sienna nodded curtly. Have you started drinking yet? Just chatting, Lydia said. Sienna poured herself a glass of water, taking a slow sip. Then she turned to Lydia with a razor-sharp smile. It's late. Shall I have my driver take you home? It was a polite eviction. No, my Uber is outside, Lydia said, grabbing her coat. She leaned in close to me as she passed, whispering with a hint of malice. Your wife is quite the presence. Call me when you need something. She vanished into the night. The house was silent. Sienna leaned against the counter, swirling her water and watching me with a look that was half amused, half deadly. I didn't say you couldn't have friends over for drinks, she said. But having your best friend's girlfriend over, alone, in the middle of the night? It's a bit inappropriate, don't you think? Especially one dressed like that. Sienna, I can explain. Explain what? She set her glass down and walked toward me. I could hear the thud of my own heart. She stopped inches away from me. Explain what, Ben? It was a mistake, I croaked. I swear, it was a total misunderstanding. Sienna stared at me for a few beats, then suddenly let out a small, dry laugh. Don't let it happen again. We're married now. We have an image to maintain, and I don't like the scent of her perfume lingering in my house. She turned and headed for the stairs. Oh, she added, pausing at the landing. Milk, 140 degrees. Don't forget. I stood there for a long time after her bedroom door clicked shut. I pulled out my phone. Will had texted 10 minutes ago. Ben, Lydia said your wife came home. Everything okay? I rubbed my temples and typed back. Everything's fine. Next time I invite you for a drink, you come. The next morning, I slept until noon. When I got downstairs, Sienna was gone. There was a simple breakfast left on the table for me. I sat down and tried the congee. It was actually good. My phone buzzed. Well, again, your honeymoon phase is over, buddy. I replied. Didn't you hear? They found her one that got away. He's back in town. I'm telling you, you're about to get the boot. This is exactly how the books go. Just watch your back. My stomach dropped. I've been a husband for exactly 1 week. Was my probation period already over? I stared at the bowl of congee, Sienna's face flashing in my mind. Fina, I was a temp anyway. I could handle being fired. Over the next few days, I saw even less of her. She seemed busier than ever. Or maybe she was with him. She'd come home late, smelling faintly of wine. I, meanwhile, embraced my role as the ultimate slacker. I spent my days wandering the city and my nights drinking with Will. Whenever I did run into Sienna at the house, she looked at me with a complicated expression, like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Probably wondering how to break the news that I was being evicted. Camden was around more too, his suit sharper, his hair even more perfect. He looked at me with a patronizing pity that made me want to punch him. One night, the front door opened and Camden walked in, supporting a very drunk Sienna. She was flushed, her eyes glassy, her steps unsteady. Mr. Harris, Camden said, his voice dripping with disapproval. Sienna had a lot of business to deal with tonight. You really should have come to pick her up. I didn't even look up from my phone. That's what you're for, isn't it? Camden bristled. It's cold out. Try looking after the person you supposedly love. He helped her to the sofa. Sienna slumped into the cushions, mumbling something incoherent. Camden leaned over her, gently tucking a stray hair behind her ear. He did it with such practiced intimacy it made my blood boil. She's all yours, Mr. Harris, Camden said, giving me a pointed look before leaving. I was alone with a drunk Sienna. She was sprawled on the sofa, her collar slightly open, her eyes fluttering as she looked at me with a soft vulnerability I'd never seen. Husband, she slurred. Yeah, I said, wondering if I should carry her to bed or just throw a blanket over her. She reached out and grabbed my wrist. Her fingers were cool, but her grip was surprisingly strong. We're married, right? On paper. Sienna pulled herself up, leaning closer until she was practically on top of me. Then, shouldn't you be fulfilling your marital duties? She looked at me with a mix of intoxication and defiance. My heart skipped. What was this? Was this about the one that got away? Was I a revenge move? But hey, if I was getting fired, I might as well enjoy the severance package. Fine, I said, grabbing her waist and pulling her into my lap. If that's what the boss wants. Sienna gasped but didn't pull away. I picked her up and carried her upstairs. She was lighter than I expected, tucking her head into my shoulder like a tired kitten. Things moved fast once we hit the bedroom. The air between us was electric. My hands found the curves of her body, and she responded with a desperate, clumsy urgency. We broke apart for air, foreheads resting against each other in the moonlight. The intimacy wasn't gentle. It was fueled by my own frustration and her strange, tearful intensity. At one point, I thought I heard her whisper Benny through a sob, but I was too lost in the moment to think about it. The next morning, sunlight poked through the curtains. I woke up with a heavy weight on my chest. Sienna was fast asleep, her hair fanned out across the pillow, her face pressed against my skin. I held my breath, not wanting to wake her. Then the memories of last night flooded back, and I felt my face heat up. "You're awake?" she whispered, her voice husky with sleep. "Yeah. Did I wake you?" "No." The room was silent for a long time. Then Sienna broke it. Is it always that big?" "Only for you," I blurted out, feeling like a complete idiot. Sienna's face went bright red. She glared at me, a mix of embarrassment and lingering affection. "Are you a bull or a man? I've never done that before. I can barely move." I froze. "Wait, you were? That was your first time? Don't sound so surprised," she huffed, though she leaned closer into me. I felt like I'd just stepped into a different world. This wasn't the cold CEO. This was someone else. When she tried to get up, she winced and pulled me back. She looked at me with big, shimmering eyes. I need to use the bathroom." She turned red again. I didn't hesitate. I scooped her up and carried her. She wrapped her arms around my neck, hiding her face in my shoulder. "Ben Harris, you're a jerk," she whispered. As I walked her back, I saw the small crimson stain on the white sheets. A realization hit me. She didn't have a one that got away. Or if she did, he hadn't gotten very far. As for Camden, well, he was next on my list. Things between us changed after that. We were in a truce. She stayed home for dinner more often. We'd sit in the lounge, me watching a movie, her reviewing files. It was a strange, quiet harmony. But Camden kept coming by, and every time he looked at me, I felt like he was sizing me up for a casket. One afternoon, I saw his car parked outside. Sienna and he walked out together, talking closely. He reached out and tucked a lock of hair behind her ear, again. And she didn't flinch. I stormed off, fuming. That night, when Sienna tried to cuddle up to me, I turned away. "I'm tired. Let's just sleep." The silence in the room was deafening. This Cold War lasted a week until I finally decided I was being pathetic. I went to her room to make peace. The house was quiet. I pushed open her bedroom door, empty. I heard a noise in the walk-in closet. I felt a surge of adrenaline. Was Camden here? In the house? I threw open the closet door. "All right, listen." I froze. Inside the closet was a woman. A stranger with short hair, standing there in nothing but her underwear. She was tall, pale, and very well built. What the? Sienna had a woman in her closet? Was she playing both sides? The woman turned around, her eyes widening in horror. She grabbed a shirt to cover herself. "I'm sorry. Wrong room," I yelled, slamming the door and running for my life. My heart was pounding. "Camden? What happened?" "I heard, Ben. What are you doing?" Sienna was coming down the hall. She looked at me, then at the closet, her expression turning very strange. The closet door opened. The woman stepped out, now wearing a shirt and trousers, but her hair was a mess. I stared, my jaw hitting the floor. You, Camden? You're a woman." Camden, or rather, Cameron, turned beet red. She glared at me with pure murderous intent. Sienna sighed, rubbing her temples. "Well, I guess the secret's out." She pushed me aside and went into the room to talk to her assistant. I leaned against the wall, my brain rebooting. All that jealousy, all those bro moments. I'd been jealous of a woman in a suit. A few minutes later, Cameron rushed out, her face still flushed. She mumbled a goodbye to Sienna and practically ran out of the house. Sienna stood in the doorway, leaning against the frame with a smirk. "See anything you liked?" I had no idea. I stammered. "She's a really good dresser." Cameron's been a tomboy since we were kids. It makes work easier if people think she's a man. No one questions a male assistant's presence. Sienna walked closer. "So, are you satisfied? No male assistant. No secret affair. But what about the one that got away?" Sienna looked at me, her gaze softening into something deep and ancient. "Benny, do you really not remember Sienna C.C. Vance?" "CC." The name hit me like a lightning bolt. Memories I'd buried years ago flooded back. The little girl who lived next door when I was 7. The skinny, shy kid who always cried. I used to steal her lollipops just so I could be the one to hand them back to her. I was a little terror back then, but she'd always followed me around, calling me Benny. I'd fought off bullies for her. And then one day, her family moved away to a bigger house in a better neighborhood. I'd been heartbroken for months. I'd even given her my favorite glass marble as a goodbye gift. I looked at the woman in front of me. I couldn't see the little girl in the CEO. You're Cece. Sienna's eyes welled up. You finally remembered. You told me when we grew up, you'd make me your queen. You broke your promise, Ben. I had to come find you myself. I was stunned. I was the secret love. She'd orchestrated this whole marriage just to get me back. And that guy on WhatsApp, little S. Me, she admitted. I was going to try and catfish you into a romance, but my dad was pressuring me to marry, so I just decided to buy you instead. It was Cameron's idea. Actually, Sienna added, laughing at my stunned expression. I felt like my brain was melting. This whole time, I've been playing the role of the tragic, unwanted husband, while she'd been playing the long game. She stepped into my space, wrapping her arms around my neck. Benny, you said you'd protect me forever. You said you'd never let anyone else have me. Are you ready to actually be my husband now? I didn't say a word. I picked her up and carried her to the bed. The office is definitely closed for the night, boss. As the night unfolded, I learned the truth. Cameron wasn't just an assistant. She was Sienna's best friend and romance consultant. She'd coached Sienna on the cold CEO persona because she thought guys liked the challenge. When I didn't make a move after a week, they'd pivoted to the drinking at night strategy. They'd been sitting in the car every night, psyching Sienna up to go in and act vulnerable. The Lydia incident had nearly given Sienna a heart attack. She'd thought she was losing me before she'd even won me. The lights went low, the moonlight spilling across the room as the mask finally came off. There were no more roles to play, no more contracts to worry about. Just the heat of skin against skin and the quiet, frantic whispers of names we hadn't used in 20 years. Later, as she curled into my side, her breath hitching as I traced the line of her shoulder, I pulled her closer. Sienna? Yeah. Say it again. Say what? What you said a minute ago. She was quiet for a second, then looked me in the eye. In the dark, her gaze was brighter than the city lights outside. I love you, Ben Harris. I kissed her forehead, feeling like I'd finally found my way home. I love you too, Cece. Story complete.